Okay.
In 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast, the podcast that is at the center of the podcasting universe. My name is Crofton Steers. I am one of your three affable hosts, ready to guide this journey of conversation and delight. With me, as are with me every week, first off is the Watson to my Holmes. I'm talking, of course, about Mike Hodgins. Mike, welcome to the show.
Good day. I'm all revved up today.
That's
Ready to
awesome.
go.
Save it, buddy. Save it. Also, and always revved up is the Lestrade to Mike and my Holmes and Watson. The bumbling but efficient Bo Schwartz. Bo,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. Sorry for all the bumbling. Did you say inefficient or efficient?
No, efficient. You remain efficient. You're just not as good as
That
Holmes
is like
and
a
Watson.
wonder of the world to be both bumbling and efficient, right?
Who gets to be Moriarty?
But I don't know who you're talking about. What is it, Lysandra?
Lestrade. He's like the police chief guy.
Oh man, why don't you call me Moriarty?
Sure, Bo, you're Moriarty. Are you happy
You're
now?
evil
Hey,
and looking to destroy things.
better yet, you're Mycroft. You can be my brother.
Yeah, Mycroft. That's all. Actually, you should be Mycroft because your name's Crofton.
That actually makes logical sense, but I'm still Sherlock.
He just wants his name on the title of whatever thing he's analogizing.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm the best.
The reality of the analogy doesn't matter so long as he's front and center.
That's
Okay,
pretty
this
much.
is-
That's pretty much
You're a
accurate.
total
Let's face it,
Mycroft.
guys,
You are a
whenever
total
I introduce
Mycroft.
the show, I always bring up some sort of comparison to pop culture or famous characters. It's sort of my thing, and then we spend maybe 20 to 25 minutes talking about it before we roll into a random topic. So we could do that this time, or we could just roll into a random topic.
That's such a Mycroft thing to say.
And I'll just go along because that's what Watson would do. So yeah, let's do a random topic.
Very good, John. Follow me.
I put explosives underneath both of your chairs, and only I know the secret way to disable them. Have fun, Sherlock. Is that what the Moriarty
You're
does?
the worst Lestrade ever.
All right.
Do you remember that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation
Oh
where
my god.
Okay, so see, this is how the preamble takes so long. Mike tells us we take too long in preambles, and then in the preamble, he's like, "Hey, did you guys see this episode of CBC Ideas?" And then
Look, I could have
flies
already
over.
told the anecdote about Star Trek, but now I'll just stop because
No,
Bo
you
and
gotta-
No, you got to
insulted
tell
me
us
earlier.
now.
the
You have to
anecdote.
just. I'm gonna be disciplined and not try to respond to it too much. So go.
No, I'm not saying it. No one will ever
No,
know
here,
because I had to
I'll-
rant.
I'll
Let's
say
go.
it. I'll say it for you. Picard says something wise. Everybody agrees. Ha 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 ha. Star Trek.
Yeah, it wasn't really that, but yeah,
It was
random
close
topic.
enough.
Machine's ready to go.
Okay, so
right.
at the end, can you tell us then if there's enough time?
No.
He even finds one. I will use my deduction skills to deduce.
Yeah. The topic today is circuses, or the circus, I guess.
What's the song? Isn't there a song associated with the circus?
There's that-
Okay,
That one.
nice. Great job, Mike. That was awesome. Yeah, circuses. It's funny because my brain immediately wanted to be like an elitist and say it's circi, but that's of course incorrect. It is circuses. And my brain is messed up, man. I haven't been to a circus in what feels like forever. Definitely seen depictions in films and movies, but first-hand
So you have
experience
been to one.
when I was a kid. But I have been, and we're not counting Cirque du Soleil, right? It's like called Cirque, but that's not a circus.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I think we should. I mean, I have a little enough to talk about as it is
Okay.
with regards to circuses, and I have been to Cirque du Soleil, where I don't think I've ever been to a regular
There's
circus.
no elephants at the Cirque du Soleil, right?
Well, no, there's no. And
Well, it depends on the show. I think there's some that have elephants, isn't there?
really? No, I think there's some that have horses, maybe. Cirque du Soleil.
All those
We're
animals
super
are the same.
informed on the
You
Cirque.
lied.
No,
All right,
but
I'll
I
look
think,
it up.
But this is a very pertinent point, and to jump to some of my thoughts about circuses, because initially when I hear it and I think traditional circus, I'd be like, oh man, those are for sure bad, because they're basically like horrible animal exploitation sort of traveling shows that sort of
Or
abuse.
human exploitation back in the day, freak shows and stuff.
Yeah, well, that too, you know. So there's that kind of circus. If we like lump in, and maybe this is what makes it difficult, if we lump in Cirque du Soleil, which is like a modern circus, which I think has ethical standards, it makes it a more difficult topic to rate. I will say that.
Yeah, it does, but I think it should be because like circuses are always and have always been about entertaining an audience, right? Like they're not so far removed from theater, and now you see these things like I was invited to go. It's funny, our friend Breck went to a circus of sorts recently, and I was invited to go. I wasn't able to go, but it's called the Nitro Circus or something, and it's like a circus except it's all stunts with nitrous and stuff like
Like
motorbike
motorbikes and stuff.
that do flips, but do flips through hoops that are on fire, a la circus. You know, there's a bunch of circus tropes, but used in conjunction. And the thing about circus is that they're often based on either sort of not I don't want to say freak shows, but like showing you something unusual, like showing someone who's never seen an elephant before, or stunts,
Or
like
a spider,
crazy
maybe.
stunts and acrobats and you know lion tamers and people dancing on the back of a horse while riding it or whatever. Those are all they're circus stunts, but they are stunts. So I think of it as like it's sort of an entertainment show with a mix of stunts and sort of the unusual or something like to that effect.
Yeah, I feel like I associate circuses with, spectacle, with like, if you think, because you made the link to theater, and yes, it is a place, usually an interior place with seats and a stage, and a presentation of some kind that an audience as a community witnesses. I would say in theater, you either get a lot of music or you get a lot of dramatic work. Where like I feel like the circus, the star of the show is spectacle, right? It's like, oh my god, can you believe what you saw? I got to see an elephant, or I got to see a guy do. I mean, I don't really remember it, like high wire work or acrobatic business, and freaks and clowns. We've gotten this far in circus talk and not talked about the clowns, honk their nose and drive in tiny little cars and like fight with each other and provide a lot of comedy. And that's certainly not spectacle, although their makeup is very flamboyant. That's
Well, it's
actually,
part of spectacle.
it's kind of, but it's like it's a comedic, dramatic work that relies a lot on physical.
Yeah, but
I guess
I
there's a lot
wouldn't
of
say.
physicality to it as opposed.
Yeah, I think
to,
it's pretty spectacle though. Like it's. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think it
yeah.
fits in with what you're saying. Is
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. So like, I think that circuses, on the whole, seem like kind of a great thing. If you think about a community that doesn't have TV, the idea of, basically it's reality TV for people before reality TV existed, which is like, come see real things you didn't believe existed, and feats of strength and agility that you would never believe possible. Give us the money and come enjoy all the things there are to see. So, I don't know. It sounds like fun. Circuses have. Are we going to get into the ethical issues behind circuses?
Well, I think because like when it first comes up, what instantly pops into my head is like old school circus, like Ringling Brothers or what's the one?
Miners.
Yeah, the Shriners. I went to that one as a kid.
That may have been the one I went to too.
I
I don't
think of
remember.
like Dumbo, the
Aw, Dumbo.
Dumbo, but those like the traditional circus. Those things are horrible, and they're often like subject to protests and boycott when they go around because things like because the animal cruelty and you'll hear, both sides of the story on this. People say, "Oh, we treat the animals really well. Their performers are treated like celebrities, blah blah blah." And other people that are like a bear is not supposed to juggle balancing on a ball. That's not what a bear wants to do. It's like it's demeaning to the animal. And as much as you think you're treating it well, these are wild animals. It's an animal abuse, and I tend to agree with that. And then and the animal component of those circuses was big. Like it was, you'd have the trapeze and stuff, but there's always be elephants doing stuff, standing on one leg, and often they'll get the animals will get injured and have to be put down, or all kinds of things. So there's huge ethical issues with that, and then of course the sideshow aspect, which is also pretty demeaning in a modern context. Think about like, hey, look at this person has some kind of problem. Let's all laugh at them, or point and stare. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of it's ridiculous when you think about it. But then, so I was going to be like, okay, these things are bad, but the reality is that the traditional circus is like a vestigial organ of past times, right? Where people didn't care about animals. They're like, oh, look, that elephant died. Oh, it's interesting, and I don't care about animals. And I do want to point and laugh at weird people because people were ruder back then. There wasn't like the sensitivities that there are today. So I think they're reflections of like a bygone era, and those old school circuses are like they don't have a place anymore. But the new style circuses, and this is what makes it harder, are like they do fit our time. They are entertaining, they are spectacle, they are exciting and different, and you go to see them and you're like, wow. And they don't have those issues that the old school circus has, but yet those things still exist. The
Yeah,
old
because
school.
things like
And it's
clowns and jugglers, like that's cool. That's not demeaning anyone. It's a skill that people practice.
Right? Yeah, sure.
Well, see, I was going to say that Mike touches on an interesting element here, which is the fact that these old circuses are sort of a product of a time period, and I think to a certain degree they're romanticized. There's lots of pop culture. We talked about Dumbo, but even now. On HBO had a show that they ran for a while on sort of like freak shows and circuses, and I think the American Horror Story did freak shows and circuses. I've seen circuses appear in many other different TV shows, even if it's for a one-off episode or something along those lines. And there are movies. I think Water for Elephants a few years ago was one that was set in a circus. But what I do think, to echo Mike's point, is that these things were entertainment in a time where entertainment was more sparse than it is today. We live in an era where in our houses we have movie stores that can deliver films on demand, video game stores, bookstores that we're allowing into our house that immediately give us entertainment directly to our eyeballs, and we see special effects in films that will just blow out of the water anything that you would see in real life because they're artificially made or what have you. But once upon a time, none of that existed. And you were limited very much on what you could do in terms of entertainment. And the circus would be a traveling circus. And when it would arrive in your town or location, this would be a huge event. And yeah, like animal cruelty and that sort of stuff wasn't as forefront an issue as it is now. But if you transport yourself to that time, it would like the excitement of the circus being in town, the magic that comes with that, like how people would be so excited. Now we're jaded. Now we're like, oh, whatever. And Cirque du Soleil gets by that somehow by being almost like more crazy, more over the top, more complicated stunt work, and also more artistry as well. So I would say that's sort of how they've kept up. They've made themselves must see in an era where there's lots of competing entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, I just went to a Cirque du Soleil thing like I don't know 2 months ago or something. It was interesting because they have like a big top, well, or big tent, more like a giant yurt actually is what theirs was like, and it was set up sort of near my house at this whatever, at this place called Lansdowne, which has some public grounds, and it was set up there behind this building. I didn't know it was there. It was there for like a month, and then one day I walked around. I was like, "Hey, there's like a big tent over there," and then my wife and I thought like, "Oh, we should go," and someone had seen it, so we went, and it was an adult themed. Circus. So it had like there was like full frontal nudity in it, and it was the jokes were quite rude, but and it was a very small scale. So like the stage people performed on was really small. Like I don't know, it was maybe an 8-foot circle. It was small. But then you go there and you watch these people do these things that just blow your mind, where you're like, how are humans capable of these things? So it was such a simple thing, and it's this tent, this really small stage, and you're just like, oh, it's people performing, and we're in the era of, movies and crazy special effects and all this stuff. But there's something still really amazing about watching someone do something that you are so far from being able to do. Like one of them was this guy laid on his back and put his feet up in the air, and this is an old act. I mean, it's in traditional circuses too. And then another smaller guy kind of just essentially does like double flips and stuff, and they land on each other's feet. It was amazing. I was like, how is it possible that people can do this stuff? So I left that circus being like, wow, that was super cool, really impressive, and I haven't seen like anything like that in a long time. And it was live, which was really neat.
Yeah,
like they were performing for us.
I wanted to ask, do you think it impacted you more because it wasn't like you can go to YouTube and find that and watch it, but it impacted you differently because it was a live performance?
It definitely did. There was this one bit at the end where this guy did this, and I had seen a YouTube video of the same act and different person doing it. This really neat kind of artistic thing where he starts with a feather balanced on his finger, and then he balances the feather on a stick, and then he takes a bigger stick and balances that stick on it, and eventually he's got this like huge, like 15-foot long stick with this all these sticks balanced. It was amazing. And I had seen a video of it, and I remember watching the video and being like, wow, that's cool. But to see it live where this guy's doing this and you're like, oh man, is he gonna screw up? There's all these people here, and he's on such a small stage and holding these things, and they're like hanging out over the audience. I'm like, if someone blew on that, because the big trick at the end is he removes a feather and then the whole pile of sticks all falls to the ground. It was a really impressive thing. But to see it live was much more interesting than to watch a video, because with a video, it's like someone puts the best take up, but to watch something live, you're like, these people are doing this now, and they're probably like, the pressure's on, they're clearly masters of their arts too, but it's very impressive. And there'd be little mistakes that you'd see happen in that, but it doesn't detract from the skill that these performers had. And there was no element of like, they didn't like bring in some like crying bear at one point to make us all feel bad about ourselves. They just didn't use the animals, right? It's just humans who have trained themselves, and it was really amazing.
Well, even on that front with, it's humans doing these things. You saw little mistakes. Big mistakes do happen. This is a dangerous profession for many of these people. Like statistically, the odds may be very low given the way that they practice or rehearse their acts, but they are stunts. Even the acrobatic and gymnastic stuff, there's got to be a margin for error, right?
Absolutely. Those some of those stunts are crazy, especially the high wired acts, like. And Cirque du Soleil has a big training facility, right? And they in which they train acrobats and stuff. But I guarantee you, there's been tons of fatalities. Just look at Dick Grayson's parents; both died. He became Robin. Everybody knows that. Held Batman. So,
or you could just say the Flying Wallendas as an actual family.
I'm glad we opened with
a lot
fiction.
of them died.
the Flying Graysons was the family I was thinking of. But
yeah, except they don't exist. But the Flying
well,
Wallendas,
not anymore. You're not very sensitive, but that's fine.
You get 10 on 10, Crofton, for committing to the bit.
Yeah, it's like imaginary world and real world. I kind of don't really.
He's trolling you though.
Can't tease them apart.
Who are these Wallendas? I don't know them. They're not.
You never heard of the Flying Wallendas? No. A lot of them died doing high wire acts. They were a high wire act family, a circus family. So there was a lot of them, and they would do these things sometimes where they'd go up on a high wire, and someone would, like, it sounds crazy, but it'd be like one person's on the wire with like chairs on their shoulders, and then you have essentially 5 people piled up on top of the one person on the high wire. It's crazy, but of course, one time it all collapsed in a performance, and a couple of them died because they didn't use, like so. It does happen, but considering the fact that that family is well known, and there's still some Walendas practicing today that are doing. I think one of them walked across the Grand Canyon on a tightrope recently with a big stick, and yeah, a lot of them have died doing it, but they've also done it for years. It's kind of one of those things where like you practice to perfection. The longer you do it, yeah, there's a chance of error. But construction workers fall off scaffolding and kill themselves now and then. It's just a lot of lines of work have risks involved, and I don't think the risks they're maybe a bit higher there, but I think they do them. They think about the risks. They're not just taking blind risks, right? They're
No,
professionals.
Yeah.
it's just when you're putting together a column, like it's entertainment versus the scaffolding example is somebody building something you're assuming for necessary reasons, whereas the other is entertainment. So whenever lives are endangered for entertainment, be it the performer realizing it or not, it's something to add in a column when you're putting together a verdict like this. Animal cruelty. Well, that's not a good thing. People dying. Well, that's not a good thing. I'll put that in my
I
against
guess so,
circus
but
column.
it's clearly like, I mean, I think the thing with animals is that no animal is like, oh, I'd love to join a circus. It's like some human goes and takes them and forces them to do it. But people want to join the circus. It's a dream of
Wait,
people.
are those two guys with the
Carnies.
tigers? Are they circus people, or are they considered like magicians? The two
The
Vegas guys. What is their name?
Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah, yeah. Are they magicians or circus
Well,
entertainers?
one of them got almost killed by that
Right.
one of those
Yeah.
tigers.
So they're notorious for their tigers, but I
But
just
they're
don't.
not. Yeah, you're right. They're magicians, and the tigers are more like a mascot type thing that they have.
Okay.
That occasionally maul one of you almost to death.
Okay.
Obviously.
Although is magic are magicians a part of like I know there's
Sometimes.
magicians and they have their own deals and they're not circus. It's like their own.
Well,
You go to see a magician,
I
but
mean,
are they
the
a part of
circus in
illusionists.
general is like a
Illusionists.
variety act, right? It's like there's lots of different things happening. It's almost like, I mean, I don't really know what vaudeville, but I assume it's like that. Like there is, and again, this recent circus I went to had singing, comedy, amazing physical feats. It was a variety, like, and I think that's how it was. Even the old school circuses are like that too. You got animal acts, magic acts, humorous clowns. It's like, a lot of different stuff.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Big Fish? It's a Tim Burton
I
movie.
did, yeah.
Yes.
In that movie, the concept of it is that a lot of it's being told in flashbacks by this father to his son, and it's the unreliable narrator in the sense that the father is lying in many of the stories, but everything he says is sort of in the flashback is presented with like a golden luster, a sort of a sheen or whatever. And much of the events take place in a circus or around, with folk from the circus and that. And it I find that romantic idea of a circus appeals to me a lot, and it's the same with sort of it's like nostalgia except for something that you didn't experience. In the same way that like maybe going to an exhibit where they do a mock 1950s town, and even though you didn't grow up in the 50s, you're like, wow, this is crazy.
Or like
I've
the
seen
Old West.
Yeah,
Old
exactly.
West.
That's a great example. Well, the circus appeals to me in that same way. Like in that it tugs on my sort of like on my heartstrings, even though don't have any personal other than like Cirque du Soleil and I saw a regular circus when I was a kid. A couple of examples that really didn't leave a killer impression on me, but it's based on sort of the pop culture tropes. It feels like the circus is like a part of our collective imagination. And that appeals to me, even though I can't decide if I'm wrong for letting it appeal to me, if I've been brainwashed somehow.
Well, I don't know. There is an appeal to it. I mean, also there's like a kind of maybe symbols associated with the circus. You hear people that the term run off and join the circus. It's like this escape. It's like this people that live in the circus don't live like the rest of us. They have this freedom. They enjoy this lifestyle that the rest of us can't ever enjoy. And I feel like that's kind of attached to this like nostalgic view of the circus too. It's like it exists in a fantasy realm. And we often think of it as this certain era of time, like the 1920s or I don't know, something like that, like P.T. Barnum and stuff, and that kind of era. And it's interesting. We talked a little bit about them being vestiges of the past and the kind of exploitation that went along and with those times of animals and people with disabilities or. But the other interesting, I guess, way to look at that is that you'll see sometimes documentaries about people who were in the quote freak show of the back in the day, and that some of these people that had these problems were able to make a living because of the circus. And you might say like, oh, but they're being exploited. But in that era, they might not have been able to make a living any other way because there was all kinds of discrimination for their disabilities in having regular employment. So the circus offered them another way to be able to support themselves. And I guess that is a positive, and it seems a bit weird and exploitative, but it was a product of its time in which those people could support themselves where they otherwise couldn't. So that's,
and now they have shows on TLC instead of being part of the circus, or they're on
you gotta
like they have
somehow.
People who have disabilities leverage them in different ways. It's still a freak show. I mean, for all intents and purposes, when the show is like I'm 5,000 pounds and can't get out of bed, and that's a TV series on TLC. That's freak show television. You're watching to see
Bo.
the thing. Yeah.
What happened to you, TLC? You used to have substance.
I don't think it ever did. I think we've sort of...
No, it did. When I was a kid, it was like nature shows and stuff. But now it's gone.
But that's an astute point, Bo. Like, honestly, that freak show element has now gone to reality television. I feel bad for people in a way, although they're letting themselves sort of be exploited. But like, I think TLC has a show on midgets called Little People, Big World, or something along those lines. And I'm not to demean anybody in that show. They're clearly getting paid a lot of money, but it is like they are engaging in the same circus-like freak show habits that have been popular for generations. And that's not the element of the circus that really interested me, like the bearded lady and all that sort of stuff. It's really my romantic ideal, the fantasy that Mike touched on, was sitting in like a giant tent and seeing a trapeze walker or whatever, somebody standing on a horse or even the lion tamer. Those are sort of, that's the sort of romantic circus that exists in my mind. That whole carnival freak show circus never really appealed to me and seems cruel.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's one of those things that has to do with your attitude about things, and I feel like more and more as I get older and as we all get older in this generation, we think more and more along those lines of feeling compassion for other people, and we think about race, class, and gender. Even if we're not that well informed about it, that conversation just generally is out there more and more. Whereas, like, I know when I was a kid, it'd just be like, "What are you talking about, feminist crap?" Like, no one gives a crap about that, or animals are just animals. Like, it's fine that we use them for tricks. Like, we're the masters of the earth, of the universe we know. Like, we're using them. There's nothing morally wrong with that. And there are still people who think that, plenty of them, and we still have lots of work to do. But
there are all sorts of voice clips I could steal out of there.
Oh, did I say a lot of
take out of context?
Yeah, take out of context. If Bo ever runs for office, I got to write this episode down. Circuses.
I need to.
It is funny to think about the lion tamer when you think about what it's like. A guy, he's like, okay, I'm gonna tame these lions. You're like, oh, look at this, and then the lion comes out and he has a whip in his hand and a chair, and he's like jamming the chair in the lion's face and whipping it with a whip. You're like, amazing. he's
a lion, man,
beating an animal with like stuff. I'm like, why is that impressive?
He's the lion, the king of the jungle.
They should have like
the
the
Lord of the
dog tamer. This
Savannah.
guy just comes out and beats a dog until it squeals, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, he
He's
tamed
the
the
new dog
dog."
Not as
whisperer. He
impressive.
tamed the dog. That would
That's
be
what he's doing.
There'd be
He
a show on
whips it,
TLC, The Dog Tamer, and he just beats the dogs until they don't
That's
fight
what
back.
like think about it. Anyway, okay, I'm ready for a verdict on this thing.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't have much more to add either, which seems unfortunate, but that's the deal, Crofton.
No, let's do verdicts, man.
All right,
They don't
well-
all have to be 2-hour episodes.
Well, I like how we were talking about animal exploitation when we've exploited a whole bunch here.
Look, I'm in the
Cow.
circus.
It's true that our show is comprised entirely of sound clips of animals, you taken from the public domain. So I have no idea on how well or poorly those animals were treated. From the sound clips,
Let's just assume
Order
that.
in the court.
and I don't know if they were grain fed or not.
Okay, I'm gonna go first. Because I feel like I did a 180 on this one as we talked about it. When this first came up, I was like, "Oh, circuses are bad," because I was just thinking about like the animal exploitation angle of it. But I do think that is just and there's lots of things like this in our society, a slow to change aspect of something that's an institution and it hasn't caught up with the times. And I think that Cirque du Soleil is an example of a circus that has caught up with the times. It's sensitive to the right things and it appeals to people in a way that doesn't also offend our modern sensibilities as the old school circus does. I think those things should go away. I don't think we need to see elephants and lions be whipped for a pleasure anymore. I'd rather watch some hipster do some backflips. It works out better. So in the end, I think I have to come down on circuses are good. I think it's neat to have. We don't have a lot of variety shows, and live entertainment in general, I think, is less. We have less access to it than we used to, so I like the fact that there are things like Cirque du Soleil that still go around, and I think other circuses which are trying to put more ethical standards in, I think they're trying. Still some room to grow there. But I do think they're good things. They're entertaining, they're interesting, and some of them just need to get with the times. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, I'll jump in and pretty much agree with everything Mike said. That it's tempting to want to take a big dump all over elephant-sized dump all over circuses because of what seems obvious today to us, bad things that have to do with circuses, like marginalizing freaks and people that are different and treating animals poorly. But I think that's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, an expression I say often on the show. I think there's a way to have that communal experience of seeing people do amazing things in a nice setting that inspires awe. So I'm going to say that we should continue to have these traditions and that circuses are good.
Man, I agree with both of you guys. I sort of started this episode with, and it's bad to do this on the show, folks. Don't ever do what I'm about to tell you. But with an ulterior motive in that I'm on a multi bullshit streak right now. I have multi episodes in a row where I've said bullshit, and I was sort of thinking, today, whatever comes up, I'm gonna break that streak, and I won't do the bullshit. And then circuses came up, and I was like, well, I sort of like circuses. I have these romantic ideas of circuses and that sort of thing. And I agree with pretty much everything Bo and Mike said. But at the same time, first off, I haven't been to see many circuses, nor have I really been drawn out to wanting to see them. And it's not that I lay that lack of appeal at the foot of circuses. Sometimes I'm just a homebody. What do you want? But at the same point, I'm not super emotionally attached. I haven't had these blissful moments at the circus where I'm like, oh man, the circus is so amazing. So I can only revel in what pop culture has sort of indoctrinated me with. So that leaves me with all the other stuff that these guys mentioned, stuff like the animal treatment. And while it's improved, there's still protests outside the Shriner Circus. There's still a lot of room to grow. We talked about theme parks on this show, and when we did, we called out SeaWorld. In the same way, many circuses deal with these sort of things, and they should be called out as well. Also, I just the combination of those sort of claims, of the fact that there's animal issues that still exist, maybe human issues that still exist or did exist previously, combined with my general lack of interest in going to or attending a circus, makes me feel that it's kind of bullshitty. Much in the same way, like I said, acting on the show was bullshit. I definitely feel like I watch more acting than I do circuses. So in the end, I'm going to have to continue my bullshit run and say circuses are bullshit.
Man, that verdict was bullshit.
That was contrived, man. You wanted your streak to live.
It wasn't contrived.
No, I wanted my streak to die.
It wasn't contrived. It just felt like, just a little all over the place. I think you're maybe going to want to think about this one a little more, and you're gonna
just for saying stuff like, "I love the circus. I have this like misty watercolored view of the circus," and then to give it bullshit.
Well, I will say that my verdicts are the ones picked apart the most by other people once they've been delivered. So I have to say that I do somehow touch on a nerve in my verdicts.
Or maybe you should do some reflecting about the quality of your verdicts.
I don't think so. I have a mass amount of Croftaholics that would disagree with you.
It's true. Crofton is the star of the show. Even though there's 3 co-hosts, he's the one that gets the most attention by far.
I'm the Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
If you want to be a Croftaholic, you can listen to all episodes of Good, Bad, or Bullshit. I'm in every single one of them. You can go to goodbadbull.com. We'd also ask that you follow us on Twitter at goodbadbull. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. We hope that you give us a great review. You can do that on all those fancy little stores and stuff. We look for the 5 stars. Unlike the circus, we're not bullshit around here. And yeah, you can also go on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We share all new episodes there. Facebook.com/goodbadbull. And if you want to follow each of the Merry Men individually, you can follow first. You can follow Watson. That's Michael Hodgins on the internet, I think. Mike, are you still on the internet?
Merry Men? No, I'll be Lil John.
Oh, no, we're not switching. I'm going to say...
Bo can be Friar Tuck.
Oh, God, I was going to use
Governor.
that next time.
Hey, you get to be Robin Hood. That's all right.
Sweet deal.
Yeah, Kevin
like to have a big
the Kevin
stick to hit
Costner Robin Hood, though.
What?
The Kevin Costner Robin Hood.
Yeah, you're the Kevin Costner one for sure.
That's good because I can't do a British accent.
It's true.
So where can people reach you?
In Nottingham Forest, of course.
By Raven.
Or on the Twitter at ML Hodgins.
Oh, and Friar Tuck?
You can find me at the Wench and Widget, just
Drinking.
outside of Nottingham Palace, drinking, what do they call that stuff? A
Mead.
mule? Mead. Drinking mead, my good man. Also on Twitter at Bo Schwartz. But I don't know what Twitter is. That's just
Hey, he's
what
doing a
I'm
German
told.
accent, everyone.
Is that German?
It's bad.
It's bad. Whatever it is bad. It's a bad, yeah. Bad
And you
German.
Oi,
Bad.
Tally ho, Robin Hood, where can we find you?
And you could shoot a bullseye and find me,
At Kevin
Robin
Costner.
Hood, at Crofton Steers on Twitter. Michael, this episode wrapped up soon. Do you want to finish your Star Trek The Next Generation remark?
No, the moment has passed, I think.
Ah! We accelerated this episode primarily to hear that reference.
Crofton and I are not going to be able to sleep tonight wondering.
Well, Bo,
what
you
was.
must know it. You've watched every episode like 4
Yeah,
times.
but I forget the context. Again.
It's the one where Data likes to pretend he's Sherlock Holmes and then goes
of
into
course,
the...
yes.
And then he asks the computer...
And wait, Geordie LaForge is Watson, right?
Yeah, it's Geordie, of course.
Jordy.
And Data goes, "What elementary, my dear Watson?"
And then he asks the computer to make a Moriarty capable of defeating him.
Yes, There's
data.
2 episodes actually.
And then it gained sentience. And then I was like, so that's how there's no sentience before in computers until someone asked the computer to make something sentient. It was like, okay, I'll just make it.
But it was so smart it managed to get out of the holodeck, and that was the deal, that it was actually endangering the Enterprise.
Yeah, there was a sequel too.
Yep. And the way that they solved it, spoiler, the show is old, and I'm about to spoil it, so stop listening if it is. The way they solved it is they fabricated a hologram, like, of Moriarty winning, but then they secretly put him on, like, a little disc, and it was like a virtual simulation on a little disc that he had left the Enterprise. And as far as we know, he's still traveling the universe simulated in that little disc.
He came back from that one. That was
how that's the one he came back from?
Yeah, because he figured it
Oh
out.
my god.
Man, I have to
Let's
rewatch
go back
the Moriarty
to Robin Hood,
episodes
something
again.
that's not Star Wars, Star Trek related.
Who was the guy that played Christian Slater? Who was he in
Oh, he was in that too. God,
Yes, he was.
What a
To Kevin
terrible
Costner.
Little John? No. Will Scarlet.
Yes, Will Scarlet.
Oh, hello there. I'm Christian Slater, a.k.a. Will Scarlet.
He at least tried to do a British accent.
Yeah, but mine is better than his.
Actually, Bo, you can be Maid Marian.
Oh, hello. Would you like
There is
to
no way
see
he's
my
made
bosom?
Marion.
And you're Robin Hood, so you guys have to have
My
a love
bosom
scene
is
together.
frothing for you, good sir. All right.
Whatever happened to Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio anyway? She was awesome. She was in the Abyss.
You know,
The
she's
90s.
got talent.
All right. Well, that I'm
We really
sure that
spun
we're off the air now.
We spun the wheels out on that one. All right, live stream or YouTube video watchers, thank you for tuning in.
Farewell.
Bye.